everyone, and welcome to Data Umbrella's webinar. Our agenda is going to be, I'm going to do a quick introduction, and then Marco will be doing his talk, and we have Q&A at the end. This is actually a special webinar because what we will do after Marco's presentation is we're going to go over to Discord, and if anybody wants to set up their environment, we have somebody to help. And for people who are viewing this recording after, today is Tuesday, December 15th. A little bit about Data Umbrella. We are an inclusive community for underrepresented persons in data science, and we are a volunteer-run organization. A little bit about me. I'm a statistician data scientist. I have a master's in statistics, and let me just get my slides back. I'm going to, okay. For some reason, I think we're both sharing at the same time or something.
Sorry, I didn't realize I was sharing.
Yeah. There we go. Thank you. Okay. Yeah, I have a master's in statistics and an MBA from NYU in technology and management and business analytics. I'm the founder of Data Umbrella, and if you'd like to connect with me, feel free to follow me on either Twitter, LinkedIn, or GitHub. Well, we have a code of conduct. We are very serious about our code of conduct because we want to continue to provide a professional and inclusive community, and that applies to the chat as well. And also for this, because it's a special session and some people will be joining us on Discord, please keep in mind that when you join Discord, make sure your username is something that is professional, welcoming, and inclusive. Because we're a volunteer-run organization, there are various ways that you can support us. The most important one is to follow our code of conduct and make our community what we want it to be. On Discord, if you have any questions, you can ask or answer them with the community. I will post the link to Discord in the chat. It's also available on our website. We have an open collective where people can donate to help support us and cover our operational costs. And we also have transcripts of our webinars available on GitHub. And if you'd like more information there, you can look there or email us and see how you can contribute and participate. We have our Meetup events are posted on meetup.com. Our videos, our webinars are all recorded and placed on YouTube. We have a job board as well as a monthly newsletter, and we have a lot of resources available on our website. On our video library on YouTube, we have a couple of playlists, and one of them is open source. So we have a recent one about NumPy. There's one for scikit-learn, and we will be adding this pandas video to that list as well. We also have I think I meant to include it. We have a career track as well. It looks like I pasted the wrong thing. And here's a collection of some of our videos. So check them out, depending on what topics you're interested in. Okay. Our job board is jobs@dataumbrella.org. Our highlighted job today is Cloud Infrastructure Engineer at Coiled. It is a remote-friendly position. Coiled connects data scientists and researchers to distributed infrastructure using the Python data science stack, which is NumPy, pandas, scikit-learn, and Dask, a popular open-source library for parallel analytics. The founders of Coiled come from the open-source Python community, and they're very familiar with Python and Dask in particular. So if you're interested in a position, just check out jobs.dataumbrella.org. On our website, we have a lot of resources at dataumbrella.org. We have a list of conferences, open source documents on how to contribute. We have guides to using inclusive language in your work. We have guides for allyship and how to deal with burnout and prevent burnout and AI ethics and a whole lot more. So please check out our website. You can also connect with us aside from Meetup on Twitter, LinkedIn, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's the best way to get notifications on when the videos are up. And I will share some of these links in the chat as well. Our upcoming event for January is creating a command line focused development environment, which I'm really looking forward to. It's an essential tool for data scientists, new and experienced. So it's posted on our Meetup page, so we hope you will join us for that. Today's speaker is Marco Gorelli. He's a data scientist at Samsung, joining us all the way from the UK. Outside of work, he's a maintainer of pandas, data wrangling platform for Python. He's author of MBQA, Code Quality for Jupyter Notebook, and Marco holds a Master's of Science in Mathematics and Foundations of Computer Science from the University of Oxford. And you can find Marco on GitHub, Marco Gorelli. So with that, I am going to put myself on mute and hand it over to Marco.
Hello, thanks, Reshama. All right, I believe I'm now sharing my screen. If I'm not, please do let me know. So, hello, friends. We are here to talk about pandas, and in particular, how to contribute to it. With me, Marco, he, him.
Your screen sharing has been disconnected.
Whoops. My screen sharing has been disconnected. What's just happened? Is this still going? Start screen sharing. Sharing on. Hello? Okay, you can see it now?
Yeah, it was just a delay, but it's now there.
Okay, yeah, sure. Sorry, my upload speed isn't as fast as would be desirable, but it's what I've got to work with. So, I was saying, I'll start by telling you a bit about the team and governance. Then I'll go over what kinds of issues you could work on if you decided you wanted to contribute to pandas. After that, I'll walk you through how to set up your own development environment so you can start contributing. And then I'll walk you through what it looks like to open a pull request. After that, we'll have a live 5 minutes Q&A. We'll then take a break, and we can head over to Discourse so that if there are any keen bees who want to start contributing straight away, then I can offer them some assistance in setting up their development environment. Great, let's dive in. Pandas was first released to the public in 2008 after being created by Wes McKinney. Now, this is the part of the story this is where the story of pandas usually ends, which is unfortunate because it's now led by someone called Jeff Reback. And the reason I think it's important to highlight this is because otherwise Wes gets all of the compliments and all of the credit, and Jeff gets all of the complaints and all of the bug reports. So let's show a bit of appreciation for the excellent work that Jeff is now doing. If you look on the Pandas website, you'll see that as well as these two figures, there's another 24 who are listed under the maintainers section. And this is the part that I'm a bit more embarrassed about, because we have a nice diversity and inclusion statement about how open we are to people from diverse backgrounds and all. We have a code of conduct and a code of conduct committee. But then if you scroll up, you see that we're all just a bunch of blokes. So how can we fix this? Well, ideally, society wouldn't be such that women do most of the unpaid labor, but in the meanwhile, I believe we have some kind of a duty to take part in sessions like this one that are specifically targeted towards underrepresented minorities. So thanks, Reshama, for putting this together. Although I'm not kidding myself. I don't think this is going to be enough to solve the problem. But, you know, Pandas has done events like these in the past. I just hope that I can learn something from it and this can inform our future steps. Speaking of maintainers, why might someone be interested in becoming a maintainer? Well, first, it's a really nice community. You'll meet some lovely people and you'll make some nice friends. Next, you'll gain loads of new skills, not just technical skills, even interpersonal skills. And finally, even if you don't get directly paid for your work on pandas, it'll probably help you in your career. So if that's motivated you, let's say something about how to become a maintainer. This is all highlighted, outlined in the governance document on the website, but the summary of the summary is, if you're helpful on the issue tracker and reviewing pull requests and making contributions, and you carry this out and you sustain this for about a year or so, then you might be invited to become a maintainer. So, seeing as I'm here, I'll also say a word or two about how I got involved in the project. And this started in August 2019, when I first opened an issue in which I was asking about some error message which I didn't think was very clear. And I got the response, "Hey Marco, are you interested in submitting a pull request?" Now, at the time, I only had a vague understanding of what a pull request was. I didn't really know how to contribute to open source, nor did I know that I could. But it seemed like a fun thing to try giving a go at. So I found on the Pandas website there was a contributing guide document. I read through it. It actually explained everything that I needed very clearly. So I followed the steps. I was able to open my first pull request and found the response from the community to be very friendly and very encouraging. And I got a huge adrenaline rush when they finally approved and merged my pull request. So I continued doing this for a bit, and after about 4 months was given triage access, and then after about a year, I was given write access. Anyway, that's enough about me. Let's talk about you. And more specifically, what could you do if you started contributing to Pandas? If you look at the Pandas page on GitHub, you'll see that there are more than 3,000 open issues. There's all kinds of things that need attention. And a lot of these are not actually very easy to work on if you're a beginner. However, what you can do is you can filter the issues on the Good First Issue label, and you'll find ones that we think are good for beginners or people who maybe are experienced with Python, but don't have an in-depth knowledge of the Pandas core code base. So let's look at what kinds of contributions people make. These are these are of different levels of difficulty. So one type is to make an enhancement, so adding a new feature. Now, adding a new feature isn't that easy in Pandas. Pandas already does a lot of things, and so we're a bit hesitant to make it do even more things. So before spending hours implementing some new feature which you think needs to be in Pandas, perhaps first check with the current set of maintainers if they would welcome such an addition. Other types of contributions include bug fixes. Now, Pandas is quite serious about promoting test-driven development, so if you submit a bug fix, you should typically also submit a test which proves that the bug was fixed and also prevents the bug from being reintroduced in the future. Next, documentation. If you find that the documentation isn't clear, or if someone else complains that the documentation isn't clear and you have an idea for how to make it clearer, then certainly a contribution, a pull request to clarify the documentation would be welcome. Next, you can add or update tests. Sometimes we find that some areas of the code lack sufficient test coverage, and so we will typically mark these issues with the needs tests label. So if you submit a pull request for those, that's always welcome. And finally, if you're familiar with type hints, then any new development should have type hints. But also there's a general move towards adding type hints to the existing code base. So if you're familiar with type hints, this can be a great way to really get familiar with the project. If you're new to open source, then I think documentation fixes and test fixes are probably the easiest way to get started. But if you want to get started, you'll need to have set up a development environment. Now, I mentioned earlier that when I started, I read through the contributing guide, and that explained everything I needed to know. Nonetheless, today I'll walk through it with you so that you can see what it looks like, and it won't all be a complete mystery when you're just reading through this really long document. So the first thing we'll want to do is to fork the repository. So to do that, we're going to want to go to github.com/pandas-dev/pandas, and we will click the fork button. I've already done this, but you will get the option to fork it to your account. Once in there, you'll want to clone it. So you'll copy the link you find here, you'll open up a terminal, and you'll write git clone. And then you'll put the folder in which you want to clone it. I've called it pandas-marco. Typically, we advise people to put pandas- and then their name. It doesn't have to be your name. You can put pandas-dev if you want, but what we don't recommend is to just put pandas, because otherwise you might start a Python REPL in this directory. You'll try to import pandas and you'll accidentally be importing the wrong thing. So let's call it pandas-marco. Now, if I try doing this, it doesn't actually work because I've already done it. But for you, it should start downloading all of the code. Once you've done that, you can go into your repository and you can set up a mini-conda environment. You don't have to use mini-conda. There are other ways to set up a development environment, but in my humble opinion, this is probably the easiest. So the command to do that is conda env create-f environment YAML. Now, this isn't going to work for me because I've already done it, but for you, it'll start downloading all of the requirements to build pandas. Once you've done that, you can activate your environment, conda activate pandas-dev, and then there's another two things we need to do before we can start contributing. So first, we'll be building the cython extensions. So that'll be python setup.py build ext in place and then J4. Or you can pass a higher number if you have like a really powerful computer with lots of cores. For me, this has run really quickly because I already did it, but you can expect it to take some time if it's the first time you're doing it. And then finally, you want to make a local editable install. So the command for that is in the contributing guide. I think it's pip install -e.no build isolation and then no use pep 517, which will be very fast for me because I've already done it. Again, for you, it might take a bit longer. Finally, let's check that the installation worked correctly. So we'll start by typing ipython or just Python, and then let's try importing pandas. We get no error, that's already a good sign. And then let's type pandas-dunder version. And if you get something that looks a bit messy like this, it means you've probably done it correctly. Great. So now that we've got our development environment set up, actually, we haven't quite got it set up. There's one more thing we need to do, and that is precommit install. So this will enable a tool called precommit inside our environment. I'll show you what precommit actually does a bit later when we try making a pull request. So we've set up our environment. Now let's try actually working on an issue and opening a pull request. The issue that I've chosen will be this one here, which was reported a few months ago, in which someone noticed that a certain command was working in version 1.0.3, but then stopped working in version 1.1.3.
Hey, Marco.
This is something we call a regression.
There it is.
So let's check that this is true. Let's try reproducing their example. They've told us that this should raise a key error, and indeed, we can reproduce it. So it is a bug. We need to fix it. So let's see how we can go about fixing it. Something we advocate for in Pandas is test-driven development, and that roughly has got 3 phases. Red, green, refactor. Red means you should start by writing a test, which should initially fail. Green means fix up your code such that the test passes. and then Refactor, optionally clean up your code. And it's important that you only do this once you've got your tests in place, because otherwise, how do you know that your attempts to clean up your code are actually cleaning it up rather than introducing extra bugs? So let's start with the first phase, and that was to write a failing test. Now, Pandas already has a file called test_info. So seeing as this bug has to do with the .info method, let's put it in there. So first, before we actually write any code, let's make a new branch for this. I'm going to call it bug info integer call names, just so I can remember what it's about when I refer to it in the future. It's not too important what you call it. Next, let's put in here the issue which this person reported to us on GitHub. Now, I will warn you, what I'm about to do is probably going to be a bit too fast for anyone who's trying to follow along. However, as I mentioned earlier, the steps to contributing are all described meticulously in the contributing guide. This is just to show you what it looks like, so you can see what it looks like. Don't worry about following all of the steps live. So let's write a test. I'm going to call it test info integer column. Let's be explicit. Names. Next, in here, I'll paste the example which this person has reported to us on GitHub. Then I don't need to do pd.dataframe. We've already got that in here. Okay, great. Now, if you remember from test-driven development, the first step was red. That is to say, write a failing test. So let's check that this test actually fails. And we'll do that by running it using pytest. And indeed, it's red. It's failing. Great. So now we can go in and fix our source code to make the test pass. And after a bit of inspecting the source code and git log to see when the bug was introduced, it turned out that the fix was simply to do .iloc here and here. And you'll see that now if we try running the test again, it passes. So we've gone from red to green. And I am proud to say that I am the person who fixed this bug in Pandas. However, I am less proud to admit that I am also the person who introduced the bug in the first place, so maybe I shouldn't have brought attention to this fact. Anyway, now that we've gone from red to green, the last thing we'll want to do is refactor before pushing up to our fork. So something we ask contributors to do is when they make a new test, they add the issue number so that future contributors can more easily find what issue each test refers to. So let's put that in here. Next, we will also want to write a note in the release notes. So let's put that here. Let's write fixed regression in meth dataframe.info throwing exception key error when called on a data frame with integer column names, and then we'll put the issue number. Awesome. Now that we've done that, we can stage our changes, we can commit them, and then we can push them. And finally, we can open a pull request. So let's go through those steps one by one. We will stage our changes with git add-q. Then we will commit them. And let's write a message such as fix bug in dataframe.info when called with integer column names. Now, earlier I mentioned that we had done this command precommit install. So now, if you press enter, you'll see what that actually does. It'll run a whole series of automated checks on the code which we've changed. And it'll block the commit if any of these automated checks fails. One of these checks which has failed is an auto formatter called Black. So it's Black has formatted our code for us. So now we will have to repeat the last two steps. We will have to stage our changes, run git commit again, and now that the auto formatter has already fixed our code, then it'll all pass. So the final thing we can do is we can push to our fork, and then we can open a pull request. You'll see that we get a link here. If you follow that in your browser, you'll be able to open the pull request. I'm not going to do that now. I already made a pull request for this, but if I was doing it anew, then I would do it either from there, or if you go directly to the pandas page, you see it'll actually tell you, hey, you just pushed to this branch a few minutes ago. Do you want to open a pull request? So you can just press that and create it. Easy. Cool. So that's a little walkthrough of what's involved in making a pull request. So now that we've done that, let's go over what we've gone over. So in Confusion, we've seen that Pandas is a friendly community, and it offers you a great chance to learn all kinds of different skills. We also saw that, regrettably, the current dev team is totally male-dominated, and hence there needs to be an active effort on our side to address this. We saw that there are many, many open issues which you can work on, such as enhancements, bug fixes, documentation, tests, type hints, build. And I mentioned that if you're new to this, then documentation and adding tests are probably a good place to start. And finally, I mentioned that the contributing guide tells you everything you need to know about how to start contributing. And I also went through the process of setting up the development environment for you, as well as opening a pull request. But again, both of these are meticulously documented in the contributing guide. So that's it from me. I hope you go out and make a contribution to Pandas. So let's open this up to some live Q&A, or it'll either be an engaging Q&A or an awkward silence. It depends on you. And after that, we can head over to Discourse, and any keen bees can get started.
Either in the chat or the Q&A. This is a great time because we have a Pandas core developer that can answer any questions right now.
Oh, wow. Okay, yeah, lots of comments I wasn't noticing while I was talking. Okay, some issues about screen sharing. I hope it wasn't too bad, but I guess I'll see later if I've got the courage to watch myself on YouTube.
It's okay. I think what happens is when you change screens, there's a delay, so it goes blank. But, it's fine. You're speaking, so we have what you're saying. So, and somebody asked about the documentation, and it looks like it is available as well. So that's good. Yeah,
okay. So I hope the step-by-step guide set up the end will also be shared later. Yeah, that's all in the contributing guide. If you just search Pandas contributing guide, you should find it, but let's put it in the chat anyway. Here you go. Next. Yeah, that's it. Okay. Any other questions we should answer on air?
There is a question in the Q&A that says, how much level of Python knowledge is required for contributing to Pandas?
Well, sorry. Oh, Q&A. Sorry, I didn't see that there was this extra tab I could go to. Okay, cool. This really depends on what kind of issue you want to contribute to. So something like fixing a bug might require you to be familiar with PyTest and with debugging, but clarifying what a parameter does in a document in a doc string in the documentation I wouldn't think that requires much experience with Python. But really, we need contributions of all kinds. It's not like some kind of contribution is way more valuable than some others. You know, the documentation needs improving, bugs need fixing. So please do try contributing. If you're interested in contributing, please try doing so, regardless of how good or bad you think your Python skills might be. I can assure you, you'll learn a lot by making any kind of contribution. I feel like almost every time I open a pull request, I'm learning something new. So, could you explain again what the setup.py script did when building the environment? Yeah, so that one builds the cython extensions. So some of the faster parts in pandas are written in cython rather than in pure Python. So for those, you need to run this Python setup.py -e build ext, and you need to do that anytime the C extensions have changed. So it's a command we're running periodically. So if I make a pull request and then a week later someone else has made commits to the master branch which have changed some of the cython files, and then I pull, I will probably again have to run the Python setup.py build ext command in order to get my pandas build working again. All right.
If anyone has any more questions, this is a good time to ask, and then we'll go over to Discord, where people can, set up their environments and ask questions. Going once, going twice. Okay. So with that, I will end the recording of this webinar, and we're going to head over to Discord. So see you over there. And I want to thank Marco so much for joining us all the way from London and putting on this great presentation.
Thank you, Reshama.